Let's look now at what happens next in the President and the Phala Phala saga. We're joined by Lawson Naidoo, who's the Executive Secretary for the Council of the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. You've got an interesting piece in the Business Day today about what should happen next in terms of the parliamentary process. We now know the President wants to take this report on review. Are the courts once again being asked to adjudicate something that is essentially a political matter?
Good morning, Bongani, and thank you very much. Yes, that is a real danger, a real and present danger that the courts have been dragged into this process. But I think because of the nature of the composition of that independent panel, comprising as it did of two former or retired judges, and including a retired Chief Justice. The report is a legalistic one, and as the President's legal papers show, may be susceptible to a legal review, and that's really why the matter is being taken to the Constitutional Court for adjudication. However, that is a report to the National Assembly, and as we know, the National Assembly was due to debate that report today, but it now seems that debate will be deferred for a week.
Of course, for the public, I suppose, looking at all of this, whatever the flaws of the report, we are surely still owed some answers around what the President might have done or not done, what he knew and what he didn't.
Indeed, that is very much the case, and that's really, I think, where we should be focusing. Whether or not the processes in Parliament have been valid or not, there are answers that are required, and we know that there are a range of law enforcement agencies and state institutions that are investigating this matter, including the Hawks, the Public Protector, the Reserve Bank, perhaps the South African Revenue Service as well. And we hope that those investigations are concluded speedily, so that these answers can be placed before the people of South Africa.
There has been a frustration in many quarters that they seem to be taking an inordinate amount of time to finalize their processes because whatever happens next, impeachment, an ad hoc committee, whatever parliamentary process might be adopted by MPs, all of that would become a moot point if one of those bodies looking into this, whether it's the Reserve Bank, the Public Protector perhaps, the Financial Intelligence Center, if they find against the President, wouldn't it?
Indeed, and it may be that this impeachment motion before Parliament was premature, in that it, as the President's legal papers show, wasn't based on any sound evidence or first-hand evidence of wrongdoing, but mere speculation. And it may have been better for parties to wait for at least one of these agencies to make a report and to make a definitive finding. Obviously, that would have to still go through a court process if there are criminal charges involved, but that may have been a more appropriate point at which to initiate the impeachment proceedings, because at the moment, the ambit of the motion before Parliament is very limited and does not deal with all aspects of what we now know about the Phala Phala burglary.
There is a sense that, part of all of this being unprecedented is that we're making up the process, the rules, maybe even history as we go along. Do you feel that through all of this, Parliament, having been criticized by the Concourt before in terms of its failure to hold the executive accountable, have we learnt our lessons as far as that is concerned, or is it once again a numbers game, and if you've got the majority, you can shield your guy?
Well, I think the first point is, it shows that the constitutional framework for holding the President to account does work. The National Assembly does now have rules in place to guide the impeachment process. And yes, we're learning lessons along the way as to how those rules could perhaps be refined to be more effective in the future. But I do think that we have the mechanisms in place. And the second point is that, the fact that the Constitution has given this responsibility to Parliament ultimately means that it is a political decision that needs to be taken. Because if we get to the end of the process, the National Assembly will have to decide with a 2/3 majority of its members to impeach the president and remove him or her from office. So it's an inherently political process, but it's got obviously to be based on objective facts, that there need to be grounds, and the Constitution sets out those grounds, that it must be serious misconduct or a serious violation of the Constitution of the law. So, not every misdemeanor will justify the impeachment of the president.
As I said, we're making history as we go along. Appreciate your time as always, Lawson Naidoo there, the Executive Secretary of CASAC.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.